Look, I've heard the rumours out there. They think I'm scared to fight. But the truth is, I've been getting ready for my fantasy football draft. When it comes to my draft, I don't mess around. I grab the Fantasy Footballers Ultimate Draft Kit right away. It's full of premium rankings, video profiles, sleepers. The best part is, it's always getting updated. Your competition won't stand a chance. Head over to www.ultimatedraftkit.com and make sure you don't end up a pathetic loser.
Welcome to the Fantasy Footballers Podcast, coming to you from the Play Draft Studios with your hosts, Andy Holloway, Jason Moore, and Mike Wright.
Hey! Oh! What's happening, Foot Clan? The Fantasy Footballers are back.
Oh, hey, listen. My voice, I'm going to apologize in advance. My voice is a lot like Odell Beckham's ankle. It's a little swollen, it's a little banged up, but it'll be okay.
We'll make it through. So I'm going to talk as much as I can.
That's right.
To protect my good friend, our fearless leader. Sometimes he needs a break. I am Mike, the Fantasy Hitman Wright. This is the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. I'm joined by Jason Moore.
I got my coffee, and I'm ready to do this.
I'm joined as well by Andy, under the weather.
Yeah. I'm here for the mock. I'm just here for the mock.
Today we are doing a mock draft, but before we get to that, I want to remind everyone, hey, My Guys was yesterday. If you missed the My Guys episode, that's where we put the foot down, and we say these are players that we are targeting because we are projecting a good season, and we personally are getting as many shares of these players as we can. We're putting our money where our mouth is.
Yep.
With the My Guys. Would love for you to follow us on Twitter at the FF Ballers. You can find Andy at Andy Holloway. Jason is at Jason FFL, and I am at FF Hitman. You can head over to our headquarters, the website, thefantasyfootballers.com. All kinds of articles going up daily right now. I mean, 'tis the season to get that education, and we have a great staff of writers over there pumping out amazing content. If you want to join our fantasy football community, you head over to jointhefoot.com. That's where you get all kinds of extra goodies. It's
show every week.
It's the best way to connect with the show, really. Yes. And so we do an extra show, like Jason said. You may notice, aside from Andy not hosting the show today, things are a little discombobulated over here in the Footballers headquarters because we are leaving out of town. So we're trying to get these shows in because we know you need them. We know that you need to hear the mock draft. So we are actually recording this on Tuesday, and this show will be live on Wednesday. So we will give you the news that we have on Odell Beckham. But remember, it's Tuesday. So if something breaks, you're like, why are you guys so stupid? It's because we didn't know. We can't go to the future.
We're still stupid, but not for that reason.
Right.
And why are we going out of town? Because we are going to the Fantasy Sports Show up in Toronto. You want to come say bonjour to the Ballers?
Go to Toronto.
Yeah, this weekend, go to Toronto. We'll be there. We're going to do a live show there. We're going to be shaking hands, kissing babies, all of that good stuff. We are going to jump into the quick question. Andy just
appalled.
Had a shocking response.
Change your answer.
Andy had a shocking response because Jason just called a full audible on the quick question.
No, I'm being serious. You have to change that.
So here, for the listeners, here's what happened. The quick question that is about to come up that's in our show doc here is, who is the least talented player in the best situation? Now, I have my answer, but as a joke, I threw in the doc Todd Gurley just to get under Andy's skin.
It worked.
And it totally worked.
First time in the last 10 years somebody said the Rams was a great situation. I was freaking out when you wrote that in there.
There's two things Andy cannot handle. You don't speak ill about his children.
Right.
And you don't insult Todd Gurley.
Certainly not after the My Guys episode.
It's funny because I was deciding on that line, that joke, whether I would write in Todd Gurley or Cam Newton. Oh. Both his guys.
Yeah, well done. Well done. All right, I'll answer the question.
Okay, so here's the question. Who is the least talented player in the best situation, Andy?
I think it's Terrence West. Look, a report broke yesterday that Buck Allen might be the best.
A tip of the cap. Andy is the only person on this show who has even mentioned or supported Buck Allen the Ravens, the Ravens left him for dead, just rotting away on the very bottom of the depth chart. And meanwhile,
when Kenneth Dixon went out, I said they're not going to bring anybody in. Buck Allen's still there.
And now there's good stuff about
you both
Buck
laughed
Allen.
at me.
What is happening in Baltimore?
So I think Terrence West, ultimately, because of his size and the opportunity he has to be the starting two-down back on an offense that does want to run the ball, it gives him a baseline, right? Being a starter gives him a baseline. I had a little bit of an honorary mention to Jaquiz Rodgers because he'll have a starting job for the first 3 weeks.
See, I think Rodgers is actually a good running back.
I know you do.
So are you buying into this recent Buck Allen hype train?
No, and I don't know if it's gotten to that point, but I think they have enough depth. They're not going to bring – I don't think they'll bring anybody in if you see some cuts and things like that. I think they're probably content with Woodhead, West, Allen, hodgepodge of mediocrity.
I'll jump in here before Jason gets to his, and I'm throwing out Robert Kelly, starting running back for Washington.
It's a great pick.
Amazing offense. Allegedly good line. Haven't really seen it this preseason, but I think they'll get it together and be who they are, a strong offensive line. And Robert Kelly, undrafted free agent, has the job because he's adequate. That's why he doesn't fumble the ball. He rarely loses yards, but he's got basically no upside.
Who's a better player, Robert Kelly or Terrence West?
Ooh, I think. Oh man, that's a great question.
They're the same dude.
Yeah,
but one of them was drafted really high, and the other one was undrafted.
Yeah,
I think
I'm going to go Robert Kelly.
So that means that's a great answer, Andy and Terrence West. When I look at where situations and not the talent are the reason I want a guy, two guys that are higher in the draft that I kind of think about would be Frank Gore, but I love Frank Gore, and he's obviously a very talented guy. But at his age,
that's a good point.
His current workload, it's more a situation where he's the lead back on an Andrew Luck-led team. So that and I also do think about Kelvin Benjamin in the sense that he's the number one target, but he's talented in the sense that he's huge. And so that's it's
a skill.
Call it a talent. Call it just size.
Are you talented?
Oh, man alive! This show's hot fire. I'm obviously very talented. I'm like 230 talented. No, the guy that I'm going to actually
really
go
wide
with
catch radius
is Robbie Anderson, because Robbie Anderson is not just old like Frank Gore, but talented. Is not large like Kelvin Benjamin. He is untalented.
Oh,
Through and through. Well, I mean, look, it's stupid because every single player in the NFL is unbelievably talented. That's the truth. The guys we bag on, we as fans, we mock, they're unbelievably talented. That's why they're in the NFL. But Robbie Anderson is not the caliber of a wide receiver that is elsewhere. His situation, you could say, well, it's really not a good situation in the sense that, you've got a horrific offense, but he is the only guy there with the fact that Eric Decker left, Brandon Marshall left, Quincy Enunwa is gone due to injury. Robbie Anderson is the de facto one, and he will have fantasy relevance, and he will not be drafted in 99% of leagues. So that's a guy I see as, if I'm in a best ball, I target him, and I'm sure I can stream him multiple times through the year in a pinch.
All right, I wanted to mention this because Mike forgot. This is a mock draft show.
Yeah.
I thought I threw it out there.
Did you?
Yeah, casually.
I didn't catch that.
It's a PPR mock draft. If you are sitting there thinking, oh, man, I really wanted a standard, just go back a few episodes. We've done, several different mocks. You can always go back.
All right, we're going to talk a little news and get right into the mock draft.
Maybe.
News and notes from around the league.
Odell Beckham suffered a frightful event on Monday night. And if you're wondering, hey, why didn't I hear you guys talk about this on Tuesday? Like I said, things are disheveled here. We're trying to get episodes going, make sure that the content gets out. So we're talking about it right now. And if you didn't see the play, Odell Beckham, this is basically a wide receiver's worst nightmare, is coming down with the catch. The defender is lunging forward, hits him right in the knee as his foot is planting. Now, luckily, it sounds like the only thing that we're dealing with is a sprained ankle. The X-ray was negative, and he will I guess he's having an MRI today, so we'll see. Or yesterday, apologies. Even I'm messed up. But so you won't know until you know.
Now,
but it sounds like we're in the clear.
Now, Brooks, you had an interesting thought on Odell Beckham, something that impressed you from this situation.
Yeah, his post-game interview, just how cool and collected he was about the situation. He was laughing, and he wasn't angry about the hit or anything like that. I was just kind of surprised from what we've seen from him in the past.
Yeah, it's a good point. Maybe a little maturation for Odell Beckham. And look, this hit doesn't happen 10 years ago. This hit happened because you don't have a choice now as a DB. I mean, you want to break up the pass. Odell went way up. You can't hit a guy above the numbers. So it's unfortunate because this is like a career, jeopardizing type of hit.
Also it looked like to me that the defender kind of lost his footing.
Yeah.
And so it was
he said it's football. Odell Beckham Jr. said it's football.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that these things happen, but fortunately we believe that he is okay. In the same game, on the other side of the field, Brandon Marshall, I'm sorry, I'm laughing just because it's like, what is going on?
Preseason football, man. It's the
Brandon
best.
Marshall being evaluated for a shoulder injury. Haven't heard the severity of that. Tight end David Njoku suffered an ankle injury. Severity is unknown.
He's already been banged up, too.
Yeah.
That's a bummer.
Speaking on Monday, Coach Todd Bowles was non-committal on running back Matt Forte's availability for Week 1.
That's big news.
Blah, blah, blah.
That's big news.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, we talked about on the last preseason overview that Bilal Powell looked to be the only trustable asset from the New York Jets. If Forte is not there, we saw last year what Bilal Powell does when Matt Forte is not there because he is actually talented, and that gives me a lot more confidence in drafting Bilal Powell where he's going right now.
Now,
I adjusted them yesterday.
Forte down, Powell up?
Yes.
My question
and he starts against Buffalo.
Is Bilal Powell is no stranger to getting banged up pretty easily himself. Is this a situation where you're grabbing Powell earlier in your draft, riding out those first 3 to 4 weeks, getting some great production, and then going, okay, I'll give you this really good deal. I've got this RB1, Bilal Powell. You want him? And then you ship him off. If
I can get value, if I can get good value for a player on the Jets, I'm shipping them off.
That's a fair point.
I mean, I just don't think you're going to be able to be happy with them week in, week out for the whole season.
Yeah, quite possibly. So before we move into today's mock draft, it is the main event. Want to tell you, Foot Clan, thank you for sponsoring the show, is Draft. You've heard us talk about them because they are the sponsor of the studio. You can find them at playdraft.com. This is
ballers.
Sure, playdraft.com/ballers, and that'll get you set up with your account. But what is Draft? If you've never been there, this is daily fantasy sports, except you draft. You already know how to play.
We love the draft.
Yeah, draft day is the best day of the year, and you can have this every single week throughout the season. You just pick a handful of players, get your lineup going, and then you're playing for a couple bucks, doing whatever, and you can customize these leagues, play against only your friends, play against other people, play against us. This is also where we have been doing our best ball drafts over the summer. So make sure you check them out. It's playdraft.com/ballers. And I'm telling you, if you've never done a DFS or daily fantasy sport over a weekend because you're like, man, the salary cap, it's
too foreign.
It's intimidating to me. I don't know what I'm doing. You know how to draft. Yeah, so check them out.
Look for us playing a lot of games over there when we're in California.
Playdraft.com/ballers.
And, of course, we definitely want to thank Pristine Auction, who is a great supporter of this show and the best place to get signed memorabilia. You don't ever have to worry about the authenticity of any signatures when you go to Pristine Auction because everything there it's pristine. It's
JSA certified.
It's taken care of, and it's all certified. Everything over there, whether you're looking for a signed Babe Ruth ball or, your favorite under-the-radar player in the NFL that you want to get a signed jersey
like Jake Butt.
I mean, the range of prices on this, because it's an auction, you can find things cheaper than you can go and buy a jersey from the store and it's got the player's signature on it. So if you wear jerseys, I said this before, just buy them and wear them if you want, but you can frame them. You look at our YouTube show, you always see we're swapping out our jerseys. If you ever came by the studio, we've got pristine auction jerseys everywhere, and it makes it look amazing. So impress your family, your friends.
Impress yourself.
Treat yourself. Go to pristineauction.com. Get your favorite signed memorabilia. That's PRISTINE auction.com.
All right, couple bits of news I want to mention still before we get into the mock. Cam Newton's supposed to play Thursday.
Really?
Cam Newton, this morning the news came out.
That's
big.
Like
yesterday, I guess, if you're listening to this on Wednesday. He's going to play on Thursday. He had been ramping up his throwing, so that's big news. Trevor Siemian named the starter for the Broncos a couple days ago.
Says anybody who's watched Paxton Lynch play the quarterback position.
I mean,
Paxton's
had every chance in the world that you could ever want.
He's done, right?
Yeah.
I mean, 2 years now, you couldn't beat out a 7th round pick.
You know, he's now in the Gabbertville.
Right.
I mean, once Gabbert, after a certain point, you're like, yeah, career backup. I mean, there's still a chance, but the guy has shown no ability to ascend as a passing talent. He can run the ball. That's a backup.
I really feel like that's not fair to Blaine Gabbert.
Oh, you don't like Paxton?
No, I think Paxton is not, he is not capable of being an NFL quarterback.
All right. Let's have some fun. Let's do this mock.
The Fantasy Footballers Mock Draft.
All right. PPR Mock Draft. 12-team league. PPR, one quarterback. Yeah, just one. Just so you know.
That's fine.
Brooks, just one.
Okay,
one
good.
quarterback, 2 running back, 2 wide receiver, 1 tight end, 1 flex, kicker, and 5 bench spots. We're drafting, Mike. You don't even know this. We're drafting from the 3rd spot.
Oh.
We're drafting from the 3rd spot.
Which is hilarious because the 3rd spot was that was gold.
That was
locked and loaded.
That was a treasure cove of I get the 3rd running back who just happens to fall to the 3 position. Now you go, crap.
Do I go shady?
Yeah.
That's why I put us there. I wanted to put us in the situation.
So many people in the question of, do I reach for that next tier of running back or do I grab that first tier? We have our tiers. I mean, this is what I'm using. We've got our printable cheat sheets from the Ultimate Draft Kit, PPR tiered cheat sheets. This, to me, is an easy question because we've been asked it so much. Do you go with shady over the top 3 wide receivers, or do you go with the wide receivers?
I think PPR makes it easier for me.
Yeah, it does make it easier. So have the recent moves by the Bills that we talked about.
Oh, man.
Where they're in a position where they're probably not going to score as many points as they would have before. Surprise, surprise, Lev Bell, David Johnson were the first 2 off the board. Actually, David Johnson, number 1. Lev Bell, number 2. Here we are. You've got Antonio Brown sitting there. You've got Odell Beckham Jr. You've got Julio Jones and LaShawn McCoy.
If this was a standard league, I would still be taking Antonio Brown here. I believe that the caliber of wide receiver, it's going to make a huge difference to your roster to have look, LaShawn McCoy is good. He is important to your team. He will help you plug in that running back role. But he is not a true difference maker at the position. That would be David Johnson and Le'Veon Bell in the sense that every time you play someone,
Shady could
you have
be.
that leg up. Yeah, maybe he could
Talk
be.
of him.
Let's just put it in the tier perspective. He's a tier 2, not
Exactly.
the tier 1.
But that's what he's tier 2 coming into the draft, but there's all this talk of he could be the reception leader on the team, and that was before they started shipping everybody off.
All right,
so
then Mike, you get to pick who you want.
It's said it's PPR, so it makes it easy. I'm taking one of the wide receivers. Antonio Brown is my top wide receiver, so it's Brown.
If this were a standard league, Mike, at the 3 spot, who would you take?
It would be rough, but I believe I'm with you that I would still go Brown.
Okay. Well, we took Antonio Brown.
Did Shady fall to us?
Come on.
No, he didn't. All right, Julio went
Dang.
next, then Odell Beckham Jr. Shady did fall to 6. And you had Gordon, Evans, Murray, Green, Freeman, and Nelson to round out the first round. Michael Thomas kicked off the second round ahead of Hilton. Then you had Jordan Howard, Jay Ajayi, Des Bryant. I think I said Jay Ajayi's name very incorrectly.
You called him
Jay
Ajayi. Be careful,
Yeah.
Reaper.
I'm a little under the weather.
Be careful.
Fantasy Reaper over here.
Leonard Fournette drafted at 206, 1 spot ahead of Ezekiel Elliott.
Okay.
Elliott went 207. Is that too early with what we know about Ezekiel Elliott, or would you do it?
It's certainly aggressive, and I don't hate it because, well, we have to see what that person does the rest of the draft because you have to target certain players now. I mean, you're boxing yourself into I need to gather supplies to weather this storm, this running back storm, which if McFadden, Jacquiz, I mean, you got to get some starters for the first couple weeks.
If you go Zeke early, Mike is exactly right. You probably don't take a late-round chance on the guys like Alvin Kamara.
Right.
You probably
You're
are
taking
Quiz, or you're taking, I don't know, Terrence West late, or you're taking somebody that you know can help you bide the time.
Yeah. Yeah, on this team, it actually looks like it would be the person that took Shady that grabbed Zeke. So the running back should be all right there. In a PPR, though, they would be obviously missing out on some of the top-end wide receivers now.
Amari Cooper, Todd Gurley. Here we are on the clock, 10th pick of the second round. Now, we know the turn. We only got to wait 4 picks before we pick again, but a lot of the big-name running backs off the board. At this point, you're looking at Isaiah Crowell. You're looking at Lamar Miller, McCaffrey, Lynch, Hyde. Suddenly, taking Brown early, you're looking at some of these running backs, and you're saying, hey, is there a PPR level top 10 type of guy here? I don't think I can talk Mike into Christian McCaffrey.
I would be taking Dalvin Cook over Christian McCaffrey.
If you want to reach for a running back in this spot, because it's a reach, it's not huge. I mean, it's around maybe 2, but it's kind of early to do that. But it would be McCaffrey or Cook in a PPR situation.
Now, we technically have – we don't want to diminish Isaiah Crowell's effect in the passing game. We technically have Crowell a tier ahead of Cook.
Oh, in my head, Crowell was already gone.
Yeah, they're very, very close. I mean, they're 2 spots away, but they are a tier difference. And Crowell should catch the ball again.
He did miss the game with the groin. I haven't heard –
he feels so much safer than going Cook or McCaffrey with your RB1.
Yeah, I do agree. It's funny because before the show,
I was safer to me than Cook.
Before the show, I was talking about how disappointed I am with where you have to draft Crowell, and that I keep wanting to move him down. But every time that I go to my rankings and I say, okay, I want to move him down, and I look at how many carries I've given him and how many yards he should get and his opportunity, even on the Browns, I land with him right where he is, which is a tier 3 running back. And
I know what to do here.
I think Isaiah Crowell would probably be my pick.
Crowell's not coming back. You take Crowell, and then you take the remainder of McCaffrey, Cook with the next pick. You go RB. You only got to wait 4 picks. I don't think you're going to lose all those guys. And the next echelon of wide receivers, I mean, if you want to talk me into Doug Baldwin, he's still on the board, Thomas, Hopkins. But I think you go running back right here.
The only other guy you could talk me into right now would be Gronk.
Yeah, with the quick turn?
Yeah.
Well, let's I feel like our last couple
Crowell.
We've had Gronk a lot.
Yeah, so let's go Crowell.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll take Isaiah Crowell. Gronk went next. Aaron Rodgers, Doug Baldwin, Tom Brady. So you didn't lose McCaffrey or Cook by going Crowell in that situation. I think at this point I would probably take another shot at one of those PPR running backs. The wide receivers on the board are Demaryius Thomas.
It's PPR stud.
Yeah. You have DeAndre Hopkins. You have Brandon Cooks. You have Keenan Allen.
Whew.
And you got a long wait, but I still think this is a thing people might disproportionately value, which is you're in a PPR, so I have to go wide receiver, whereas the position scarcity still exists in PPR leagues. It's not like that doesn't change. You still need running backs.
And you still can get really, really good wide receivers late. I think, a player like Stefon Diggs might make it back around to us.
I think
that's one of your guys.
Crabtree might make it back.
Exactly. But if you look at who's going to be on the board at running back at the next round with this long wait, I think we're going to desperately wish we had taken a running back if we didn't here. So my vote would be my number 11. He's a top 12 running back in full point PPR, which is Dalvin Cook. I had just mentioned I'm starting to believe he is –
he's at least
close
a 50
to a lock to that
reception
50
guy.
reception guy. I mean, and in a PPR, what he's shown in the preseason with his college production.
We rarely talk about bye weeks. But Antonio Brown and Isaiah Crowell are both bye week 9, which is what Cook is. So suddenly you're looking at a situation where maybe the difference, because this is the only time I talk about bye weeks, is if it's a narrow margin between 2 players. We have Cook and McCaffrey in the same tier. Does it make a difference to you, or do you just go forward with Cook because you're more confident in him and you figure you're going to make moves during the year and it won't matter?
I would take the player that I want here because it's week 9. If this was week 6,
sure,
that makes a big difference. But week 9, so much will change.
Not their bye weeks though.
Yeah, certainly. But your team construction, players coming out of nowhere, players busting, and I have McCaffrey higher on my board than Dalvin Cook.
See, yeah, and this is one of the tough situations where we are trying to go with our consensus together, but we obviously have different opinions. In my opinion, Lamar Miller would be the guy that I would be questioning taking over Dalvin Cook. I mean, if I'm on the clock here and my 2 players are the same bye week, and so I'm starting off all 3.
Are we still?
I think they're close enough where I would go Lamar.
This Miller. Is a question from Mike the Fancy Hitman to Jason. Are we still confident in Lamar Miller?
I'm still confident in Lamar Miller's volume. I'm not I mean, you heard me a couple episodes talk about how disappointed I was with him in his preseason work, but I think that so far the offense looks to me to be as a total slightly improved over last year. Lamar Miller, I still think, is a lock for around 250 carries and he'll get 30 receptions. So that volume to me as your second RB. He doesn't have the upside that I think Dalvin Cook does, but I think he's got a safer floor since there's a lot of question marks with Dalvin Cook. I mean, we've been seeing Dalvin Cook without Latavius Murray.
Danny Woodhead's there too.
Too early for Woodhead.
I agree. Ranking-wise, he's up there and he's worthy of this draft spot, but he's not necessary.
I made the pick.
Okay, who'd we go?
And I went with Dalvin Cook.
That's fine.
And I went with it because I wanted to press into the bye week argument. When we came out with our top 10 tips and tricks episode, I saw some criticism, people saying, why didn't you talk about bye weeks? It's because people overemphasize bye weeks. There are situations. You play a best ball league, okay, you've got to pay attention to your bye weeks because you don't ever change the players. But if you're in an active league, if you're an active player, if you're on the waiver wire, if you're making trades, like Mike said, week 4 bye week, problem. Week 9 bye weeks. You probably don't have all those guys in your roster.
No way. Not if you're in an active league.
And like Ice Cube says, if you're scared, go to church.
You ain't scared. All right.
And we say, don't draft scared.
No.
You make mistakes.
Cooks, Hopkins, Landry. Lamar Miller did go at the 7th pick of the 3rd round. McCaffrey went at the 10th pick. You had Kelsey, Breeze, Allen, Robinson. That would be Keenan Allen first, then Allen Robinson. Jordan Reed, Tyreek Hill, Sammy Watkins. Joe Mixon went right before our pick here in the 4th round. Just so you know, if you go to thefantasyfootballers.com, we will be posting this episode and a link to the entire draft board. So if you want, if like right now you're listening to the episode and you're sitting at home and you want to follow along a little bit better, that's a place that you can go and kind of see what was on the board.
And on YouTube.
Thank you, Brooks. Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Isaiah Crowell, Dalvin Cook, Antonio Brown.
Okay.
I have not had a team that looked like this team at all in any mock or any situation. So it's interesting. It's going to make these next choices very interesting.
This next pick is super easy for me.
We're at 4-9.
Yes.
Is it easy because Carlos Hyde's on the board?
No, he's saying it's easy because Michael Crabtree's on the board.
Oh, I got
100%.
And I am 50% there with you.
Okay.
I look at this Crabtree and Larry Fitzgerald as both good options. Larry Fitzgerald led the league in receptions last year with the John Brown, Jerron Brown, J.J. Nelson nebulous area. I expect that Larry Fitzgerald will need to be in that 100 reception range for the Arizona Cardinals this year.
Crabtree had 89, so I mean it's
that's a
chucking 10.
Sure, that's a fair point.
Points.
That's where I say 50% because I could flip a coin between those two players and I would be fine with either one of them. My rankings, I've got Fitz a little bit ahead, but I do think that Crabtree is a much better touchdown option at this point in their career.
If you look at our tiers, we have plenty of the Tier 4 running backs still left on the board. What we don't have is very many of the Tier 3 wide receivers on the board. Crabtree, Fitzgerald, Golden Tate, and Terrell Pryor, they all fall in that category. Pryor's already gone. Tate is there, so some might argue Golden Tate over Crabtree. I'm more than happy to grant you your Crabtree request and get you a My Guy on this roster.
Yeah, I was going to say, we're coming off the My Guy episode. We got to go Crabtree.
I appreciate it, fellas.
He's a bye week of 10, so we have broken the streak.
Dang it.
But remember, quick turnaround here. And here's what I want to say. Look, we're coming around. We took Michael Crabtree and Carlos Hyde, Devontae Adams, Golden Tate, and Julian Edelman are gone. now you're sitting here in the 5th round. Do you feel any temptation to grab a guy that I really believe in? Yet again, 1,000 yards a year, PPR advantage, Greg Olsen here. Do you think about Greg Olsen in the 5th, or are you too enticed by all of these PPR options at wide receiver with Larry Fitzgerald still on the board, Jamison Crowder, Martavis Bryant, Pierre Garçon?
It's a great question. People are going to have to wrestle with where they're going to take their tight ends and when there's value there. Is Greg Olsen a decent value at this point for who he is in this draft? Absolutely yes. You are going to get a reliable 16 games out of Greg Olsen, and he will be worth this pick, but you have to keep in mind what you're giving up. When you select him there, it's not just what is his value, but now we're giving up a Larry Fitzgerald, a guy who very well could lead the league in receptions for the 2nd year in a row in a PPR, or we're giving up someone else. In my own rankings, I've got
get a tight end who's 85 to 90% of Greg Olsen's
I mean, my
production.
guy.
Here's what I will say.
My guy of Zach Ertz that we talked about, last
Love him.
episode. I think in a full point PPR, he's equal with Greg Olsen. We could get him 5-6 rounds later.
Here's the one thing I'd be mindful of. With Crowell and Cook and Crabtree, the 3 Cs.
Oh, we got it.
I look at them and I say, I'm not sure what ceiling Crabtree has. I'm not sure what ceiling Crowell has. Cook, maybe he's got that, but he's also got the polar opposite, right, where we don't know exactly what the workload's going to be, and Brown is Brown. But I do want to make sure that we secure ourselves some upper echelon players, and we're not just settling for what I'd see Fitzgerald as, safe.
Fitzgerald is safe, but he's not. I mean,
What about Danny Woodhead here?
Yeah,
He's been a top 12 guy in PPR leagues whenever he's healthy. He's in a good situation. They love to throw the ball. I feel like he gives you flexibility.
My 4 targets right here would be Danny Woodhead, Larry Fitz, Stephon Diggs, and then I'm willing to go in on Martavis Bryant at this situation. I'm not going to push him because he's not a PPR guy. At least we haven't seen that out of him. So
No, he won't be.
So of those other 3, I'm perfectly happy taking one of those 3 guys.
All right, I'll let Jason make this pick because I think I made the last couple. Woodhead, Fitzgerald, Olsen, what do you say?
Yeah, I am actually going to go with Larry Fitzgerald here. I think sometimes we get too caught up with the ceiling. Larry Fitzgerald was a top 12 wide receiver last year. Sure, he doesn't have the ceiling of top 5, but I am absolutely fine with saying this guy could be a top 12 wide receiver next year. So that's where I would make the selection.
Mike, Martavis Bryant went the pick after Larry Fitzgerald.
Of course he did.
Did not roll back around. In fact, Olsen went right after that, so it seems like we were deciding between the same guys that were in the minds of these other teams. Emmanuel Sanders, Russell Wilson went. We have some quarterbacks going off the board. Andrew Luck went in the 5th round. Matt Ryan in the 6th. Jameis Winston in the 6th. A couple more tight ends. No more Eifert. No more Graham.
No more Diggs.
No more Diggs. So Mike Gillisley, interestingly, 6th-round pick.
This is where I'm very sad because my hope was that, and I've seen in a lot of drafts, in this draft spot, him make it around. It didn't happen here, but I was hoping that Mark Ingram could fall back around to us.
All right, you still have C.J. Anderson, Tevin Coleman, Frank Gore, Theo Riddick, Adrian Peterson, Doug Martin, who I said I love in the 5th or 6th round. Back of the 6th here, we got a quick turn. You also have Snead, Garçon, Brandon Marshall. Not thinking quarterback here, I assume. You've got Cousins, Mariota, and Newton, Carr. And then it's getting thinner at tight end. If you want Zach Ertz in this draft, you might have to make the pick here soon. I don't think he's going to – he'll make it to our early 7th-round pick, but he's not going to make it to our 8th and 9th-round picks.
If it's me, I'm trying to double down here in just also combining Andy's thoughts and love for Doug Martin. I'm going to pick the guy I think who will slip through, and then the other one would be my target between Anderson and Doug Martin. So
to go double running back?
Yeah, because if you went, I would.
I mean, you're speaking my brain.
Oh,
and
that's fantastic.
We are simpatico right now because I was going to say almost the exact same thing. I think because we've got 3 wide receivers, we've got safer wide receivers right now. With Doug Martin there, if you grab Doug Martin and another running back at this turn, look, I like Zach Ertz, but if we don't get him, there's plenty of other guys. There's, Eric Ebron still has the chance. Hunter Henry is still out there and will make it around. Now, if Zach Ertz gets all the way back, great. I would love it.
So we went C.J. Anderson. We made the gamble that Doug Martin would slip through 4 picks. He who dares wins, my friends. And Doug Martin was there, and now our running back core of Crowell, Dalvin Cook, C.J. Anderson, and then Doug Martin getting to platoon in week 4. That's
great.
That's great.
That's insurance for injury. That's insurance for,
very happy
you can
about
wait
that.
on the suspension.
And let me just say this.
I love this team now.
That was starting out with a wide receiver. Everyone is so afraid that if they take one of those 3 wide receivers and they, that they're going to have to reach for shady above where maybe he should go, or even, they go, oh, Melvin Gordon, I don't really want him here, but I don't want to take Odell Beckham because I'm worried if I don't get a running back. This is a good example of being able to take the best player at their respective tier and their position and then still be able to fill it out. So I really like the team.
Meanwhile, it would have been a blow to the plan, but Robert Kelly is still on the board as well. So you still had a starting running back for a good offense using the strategy we went with.
A lot more quarterbacks went off. Carr, Mariota, Newton, and Kirk Cousins. Jason, Kyle Rudolph, he went off the board, but Zach Ertz is still there now.
Whoa.
A guy that, if you look at late 8th round, probably going to be the next tight end off the board, and he represents
sure will be.
An upper echelon guy. I think we'll take him, and I think we might come around.
My guy.
We might come around and grab another one
of
your
this
guy.
Is the double up my guy? Look.
Here's the problem, though. Do you want to take Dak Prescott here? Or Matt Stafford or Andy Dalton later? Or would you rather jump in on pro sites? You could jump in on Eric Decker.
I'm looking wide receiver.
Yeah, I was going to say, let's look at what wide receivers
Dak.
are on the board, because I like Dak, but if there's only a few
you
wide
gotta
receivers
take another
left,
wide out.
then, that we really like at the tiers that are available, then that will determine whether or not we think, oh, okay, there's 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 guys in the next tier that we like, then take Dak. But if there's not, then we need to
Why don't
focus
you
on the
do
wide
that,
receiver.
Jason?
All right, so here's who's available at wide receivers right now. There's Eric Decker, who I know, Mike,
Love him.
like. There's Randall Cobb, who has the chance at that higher upside. You've got John Brown and Mike Wallace, Jordan Matthews, Kenny Britt. So it does appear to me that the wide receivers
Cooper Kupp is still available. We can shoot for him late.
Sure, those are decent late guys, but it says to me that it's really thinning out. I mean, the guys
Jeremy
that you can
Maclin
rely
just
on,
fell out, and there's no more of our Tier 5 wideouts.
Maclin was really who I was. When we took Zach Ertz at that last pick, it was between Zach Ertz and Jeremy Maclin. I love him at that value. If I was making this pick, it would be between my guy and Dak or Eric Decker. And I think I would probably lean towards Eric Decker, because when I compare, okay, we don't get Dak. Well, I'm pretty happy with Stafford, and I'm pretty happy with Rivers and Dalton and Pitt and Roethlisberger.
Here's what you got to pay attention to right now. 11.
Yeah, know your surroundings.
Yeah, exactly. This was our tip the other day. 11 quarterbacks have been drafted. There are 12 teams in this league. We're the team that doesn't have a quarterback.
And Dak Prescott is on average, and granted you can never go exactly by that, but on average he's been going as the 15th quarterback off the board. So he might very well be gone. But I don't think we need to take a quarterback here.
So I think Eric Decker's the right pick.
Yeah.
Are we all in favor?
Yeah, and you have Wait, what?
The eyes have it.
Oh, okay.
I thought you said not I.
I was saying Big Ben is still on the board. So if we have a 1 quarterback buffer, because I believe that if a team was taking a second, they would go for Big Ben.
Yeah, I think your point, Andy, to call out the quarterbacks and the teams that have quarterbacks. We talk about one of the tips was track your league. Whether you're doing that on a pad and paper, whether you're using the Draft Day app, you track your league and you can say, okay, I think this position can get around to us. So that's the right call to not take a quarterback with that last pick.
Well, the risk seemed to be worth it, because I took Eric Decker, filling another bench spot, giving us Decker, Fitzgerald, Crabtree, and Brown, 4 very, very solid wideout options. And nobody took a backup quarterback. Dak Prescott and Big Ben are both still on the board. Now suddenly you say, wait, if you're really happy with both of those guys and Stafford and Dalton, you probably take somebody at 10-10 here and then wait for whoever comes back around to 11. Or you just don't get greedy and you just take Dak Prescott if you guys love him.
That is putting your hand very close to the fire. If you want Dak to be your guy at the basically the 11th round, I would just take my guy at this point. This isn't a necessary gamble situation.
Yeah, because we're at a quick turn, the truth with the quarterbacks there are going to be
He
true.
probably makes it back. Like, he probably makes it back. But if he didn't, and you gambled for just 5 spots, you'd
be disappointed.
You're
you
gonna
won't
be
have as
disappointed.
much
You got to
fun.
know when to cash in. You know.
Yeah, no one.
Well,
to
let's
hold him.
cash in.
Yes.
All right.
We took Dak Prescott.
All right.
Jason has his super team.
Yeah, I am very.
Who was your last
happy
player?
with this
Mark
team.
Ingram. You didn't get him.
Yeah, I didn't get Mark Ingram, but so far we all have one of our my guys. I've got Zach Ertz and Dak Prescott.
That's right. I got Doug Martin.
You got Doug Martin, and we're putting together a great team.
Okay, this is great. All right, we're here. Third pick of the 11th round, wrapping this thing up. We pretty much need 2 bench spots to fill out.
Well, let's look at our
and
positions.
our defense and kicker. You want to read through our roster there, Jay?
Yeah. So obviously Dak is our quarterback. At running back, we have Isaiah Crowell, Dalvin Cook, C.J. Anderson, and Doug Martin. So we have 4 running backs, one of which will be missing at the beginning of the year. I like them, but
I love it.
There's only 4 there. And then at wide receiver, we've got Antonio Brown, Michael Crabtree, Larry Fitzgerald, and Eric Decker. I really like that team as well. So we're 4 of each. We're pretty even here. It's a PPR league, which says that the flex position, usually you're going to score more points in your flex position with wide receiver than with running back, depending on if you are talking about, the same, like,
I'm going to give you
a
guys
running back 20 versus a wide receiver 20.
I'm going to give you 4 names.
Okay.
Okay, you ready? I'm going to give you Latavius Murray
Okay. So
to go with Dalvin Cook.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you Rex Burkhead.
Okay.
I'm going to give you Marvin Jones, and I'm going to give you Josh Doxson.
I like a couple of those names. Marvin Jones has been a player that I have been targeting late in drafts. That being said,
I'll throw Zay Jones in there too.
Yeah, and I love Zay Jones, but I don't think I would take either one of them personally over Jordan Matthews in a PPR. He is going to be the one on that team right now because of his injury. I think he's falling in drafts. So if I were to lean wide receiver, I like all 3 of those guys. But I would take Jordan Matthews ahead of Zay Jones on the same team, and Marvin Jones has that high upside. At the running back position, I was thinking about Burkhead. I also think Jeremy Hill is there. And look, Jeremy Hill's been disgusting and awful, but he has double-digit touchdowns the last 2 years. And guess what? He's going to get the goal line carries again. He's going to be the starting running back to start the season, and they're not just handing the entire keys to the kingdom over to –
Yeah, but you talk about Murray and Hill being in a similar situation. Why wouldn't you want the cuff?
Because I don't want to cap my upside.
Okay.
Mike,
make the pick because we got to get around to our next one.
Oh, man.
And we got a long wait. And I know
Okay.
we need at least one more wide receiver.
I'm looking at wide receiver, and for me, it's between Jordan Matthews and Marvin Jones. I wish Jordan Matthews did not have that.
It's too late.
sternum
I took
problem.
Marvin Jones.
Yeah, I can.
I like
I
this
can be
team
okay
too much
with
to
it.
put Jordan Matthews on it.
Oh, man. I do not understand your hatred of Jordan Matthews. I still think
Wait
he's
a minute.
good.
Well, it's equally matched by
Did Jeremy Hill get drafted? Dang it!
Jeremy Hill.
I
is
thought
good.
for sure
we had a
he
long
would-
wait.
I thought for sure he would sneak through though.
All right, we got one pick left here. Back of the 12th, guys. Let's make this pick. You do have Burkhead still sitting there.
I
Seems
think
like
Rex
a great
Burkhead and
last
Alvin
pick.
Kamara are the only 2 players I would be considering here. In a PPR, Alvin Kamara would have Kamara would have a very high floor, and Rex Burkhead has the potential to maybe get that starting role. So that's a roster construction question.
There's a news
What
that-
do you need? Do you need a guy who you can get a safe PPR floor and plug in for a couple games?
Fair point.
Or do you want to take that gamble on the Patriots are going to end up deciding that Rex Burkhead will be the guy?
No, they're not going to do that. News report came out this morning that you may never be able – it literally came out from New England. You're not going to know who the starter – there would be no depth chart was the story in New England.
Yeah, I saw that.
That's the story. There's no depth chart.
And we've seen that before with New England where you cannot guess what
Billy.
running back to start, which means you can have a running back that finishes the year as the 15th best running back and he helped destroy your
Yeah,
team.
but Burkhead
because
could have
you
two-
never, ever, ever decide when to start him.
You could have 2 big weeks to start the year, though.
I believe
if Gillislee's banged up, and then you got a trade piece.
I agree with that if Gillislee is banged up. So if this is a couple weeks closer to the draft, maybe I lean that way. But right now, if I was deciding between those 2 guys in a full point PPR, I would go with Alvin Kamara, who has looked electric and I think will have enough volume in the receiving role of a super friendly offense for the receiving back. Travaris Cadet had 40 receptions last year. So if Alvin Kamara is up in that 40 or 50, I would love to have him and Cook on the same team, see what kind of explosions we can have.
You don't want your fourth, my guy, Robbie Anderson?
Don't you put that evil on me. You know what's funny, though, that you say that is there's a place deep down in my heart that actually it's a little tiny sliver, but it's named Robbie Anderson. He has a spot in my heart.
All right. Well, while you guys were chit-chatting, I took Alvin Kamara for you.
Thank you.
You want to read that team back, Mike?
I will read it back. Our starting roster: Dak Prescott, Isaiah Crowell and Dalvin Cook at the running back position, Antonio Brown, Crabtree at wideout, Zach Ertz, Larry Fitz scheduled as the flex. Our D, we went with New England Patriots and Matt Prater. Who cares?
Who cares?
Who cares? So the bench, we got C.J. Anderson, Doug Martin, Eric Decker, Marvin Jones, and Alvin Kamara. Whew. That team is hot.
I would love to start the year with this team. Now, plenty of these guys will not pan out because plenty of guys on your team, every team, will not pan out. So don't get high on your horse when you finish a draft and think, man, I nailed it. That's great. Don't get too low. If you leave a draft thinking, man, things just didn't fall my way, just wash the draft off and move forward to week 1, make the right start sits, keep listening through the year. We're going to bring home some #FootClan titles.
It's a very interesting draft because I don't know how excited I was about it 3 picks in.
Yeah, sometimes
I just kind of felt it was a little different.
That happens.
Felt a little uncomfortable. When we ended up going C.J. Anderson, Doug Martin, that's when the draft changed for me. Not only did I know that our running back depth was going to be good, and we had the upside I talked about earlier with Doug Martin, right? Yesterday on the show, the reason he's a my guy for me is because you don't have that many guys you can draft that late that can play at a top 5 level. Yeah. So once that happened, then all of a sudden I could kind of laser in on wide receivers. I could make a jump for Ertz, for Prescott, change the whole draft, in my opinion. So
that's a good tip because we've had that happen several times in drafts. Don't jump to conclusions about your team 3 or 4 picks in. You just don't know, especially when you're making a team with Gronk. Your team is going to feel awful until the 8th round when you go, oh, okay, but I'm good here. I've filled in the pieces. So
and plenty of guys that we
don't tilt.
We hoped. I mean, some of them made it back around, but we wanted Jeremy Hill to make it back around. Didn't happen. Jeremy Maclin didn't happen, and that's fine. You don't tilt. You stay with your tiers, and you take next best.
All right, my voice is it's a little different today, but I made it through.
You made it.
I'm here. I had a good time.
I had a good time. I enjoyed being with you two today.
This was just mediocre.
No
mediocre.
No need to bring up Jordan Matthews again.
He's good.
Hey, listen, I'm going to tell you something right before we leave here. I want to tell you about the Secret to Victory podcast. It's a new podcast from Gatorade and Gimlet Creative about how the best athletes in the world use defeat to fuel a win. This week, you'll hear from Chicago Cubs player Kyle Schwarber on how the lovable losers took their team to a 2016 World Series win. Visit Gatorade.com/podcast to listen now or subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. That was a fun mock draft. We'll make sure we get all of the full draft board up there on the website. Brooks will take care of that, right? You got it on lockdown, Brooks?
Yeah, I got it.
All right. We appreciate it. So,
thanks for listening. We really have had an enjoyable lead up to the draft season, and hope you stick with us for the rest of the year. Speaking of draft, don't forget about Play Draft. It's an awesome thing. You got to check it out. Go to playdraft.com/ballers to get a free entry. Have a good one, everybody.
Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. Join our fantasy football community on jointhefoot.com and follow us on Twitter @TheFFBallers.